Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! The atmosphere in the vintage auditorium was electric, each leather-cushioned seat filled with eager spectators. Antique bronze chandeliers suspended overhead cast an enchanting glow upon the scene, their intricate designs adding to the mystique. Center stage, a towering velvet curtain of deep emerald, promised more than it could reveal, leaving the crowd intrigued, expectant. Unbeknownst to them all, someone amongst the spectators was least expecting the events that were to unfold. A man with wavering resolve, an expression of restlessness upon his visage, couldn't align the evening's events with his intended plans. A last-minute favor had placed him in this peculiar setting, his lanky frame and unruly chocolate-hued locks marking his discomfort. Please welcome the great Marvello. Smoke billowed across the stage as a tall figure emerged wearing a midnight blue tailcoat adorned with silver stars. His black top hat gleamed under the spotlight, and his handlebar mustache curled dramatically at the ends. The audience erupted in applause. For my first illusion, Marvello announced, after several impressive card tricks and disappearing acts, I require a volunteer, someone brave enough to undergo a transformation. Stefan sank lower in his seat. He never volunteered for anything, especially not public performances. He became acutely interested in a loose thread on his jacket sleeve. You there! The gentleman with the brown hair and the leather jacket! Stefan's head snapped up. Marvello was pointing directly at him, and a spotlight suddenly blinded him. The audience turned to look, and someone nudged his shoulder. Me? Stefan mouthed, pointing to himself. Yes, you! Come join me on stage for the experience of a lifetime! Before Stefan could formulate a proper excuse, the people beside him were standing up, creating a path to the aisle. With reluctance weighing heavy on his shoulders, he made his way to the stage, each step feeling like a march to his doom.
What's your name, sir?
Marvello asked, his voice carrying through the theater.
Stefan,
he muttered into the microphone thrust before him.
Stefan! A round of applause for Stefan's courage!
The audience clapped enthusiastically while Stefan stood awkwardly, hands shoved in his pockets. For this next illusion, I will transform our volunteer temporarily into someone entirely different. A complete change of appearance that will astonish and amaze. Marvello directed Stefan to a tall, ornate cabinet positioned center stage.
Simply step inside, and when you emerge, you'll be transformed.
Stefan eyed the box skeptically.
What exactly is going to happen?
Marvello laughed, a theatrical sound that echoed.
Magic, my friend! Nothing more, nothing less. It's perfectly safe. An illusion only.
With a resigned sigh, Stefan stepped into the cabinet. Marvello closed the door, leaving him in darkness. He could hear the magician's muffled voice addressing the audience, building suspense. Then, something strange happened. A warm sensation washed over Stefan's body, starting at his head and flowing downward. It wasn't unpleasant, more like stepping into a warm bath. A subtle tingling spread across his skin, and he felt lightheaded.
And now,
Marvello's voice penetrated the cabinet.
Behold the transformation.
The door swung open, and Stefan stumbled forward, immediately aware that something was very wrong. His center of gravity had shifted. His clothes felt loose in some places, tight in others. The audience gasped collectively, then broke into thunderous applause. Looking down, Stefan froze in shock. His broad chest had been replaced with a distinctly feminine bosom, now covered in a shimmering red satin dress that hugged curves he didn't possess minutes ago. His feet, now smaller and more delicate, were strapped into matching red stiletto heels that explained his extra height and precarious balance.
Incredible!
Marvello exclaimed. The perfect transformation illusion. Stefan's hands, smaller now, with longer fingers and manicured nails, flew to his face. His stubbled jaw had softened, his features more delicate. Reaching up, he felt long, silky brown hair cascading past his shoulders. This isn't an illusion, Stefan whispered, but his voice came out higher, melodious, a woman's voice. Marvello's smile faltered for just a moment before he recovered. Let's give another round of applause for our brave volunteer! The audience roared their approval, clearly believing this was all part of the act, an elaborate costume change, perhaps with a body double switch. Stefan knew better. This was his body, but fundamentally altered.
Take a walk across the stage,
Marvello encouraged, a hint of nervousness in his eyes. Stefan took one wobbly step, then another, gradually finding his balance in the unfamiliar heels. The dress swished against his legs. No, her legs, as she moved. The sensation was foreign, yet not entirely unpleasant. After a few more magical demonstrations using other volunteers, none of whom underwent anything like Stefan's transformation. The show concluded. The audience filed out while Stefan waited backstage, pacing in the small dressing room Marvello had ushered her into.
What did you do to me?
Stefan demanded when the magician finally entered, closing the door behind him. Marvello removed his top hat and ran a hand through his thinning hair. The theatrical persona had vanished, replaced by a weary-looking, middle-aged man.
I'm terribly sorry. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not really.
What do you mean, not really? Change me back.
I can't. Not immediately.
Marvello sank into a chair.
The spell, yes, actual magic, not an illusion, was supposed to create a brief visual transformation for the audience only. An illusion, not a physical change. Something interfered with the enchantment.
Stefan gripped the edge of the makeup table.
Spell? Actual magic? Are you serious? Deadly serious. Look, the transformation is temporary. 1 week, at most. Then you'll revert to your original form. A week?
Stefan's new voice rose in pitch.
I can't be a woman for a week. I have a job, an apartment, a life.
Marvello spread his hands apologetically.
I truly am sorry. Attempting to reverse it now could cause permanent damage. The safest option is to let it run its course.
Stefan slumped into a chair, the satin dress crinkling.
This can't be happening. If it helps, the transformation is complete. You are, for all intents and purposes, female. No one will question it. You could simply take a week off work, or... He hesitated. Or what?
Or live your life as normal, just temporarily as a woman. Stefan buried her face in her hands, feeling the unfamiliar contours. How am I supposed to explain this to anyone? Perhaps you don't have to. Marvello reached into a drawer and pulled out a small leather case.
These might help.
Inside were identification documents, a driver's license, credit cards, even a passport, all featuring Stefan's new feminine face, but with the name Amelie Voss.
Part of the prepared illusion,
Marvello explained.
Usually just props, but these are magically linked to you now. They'll function as real identification,
Once you change back, they'll revert to blanks. Stefan examined the driver's license. The woman in the photo was undeniably her current self. Long brown hair framing a heart-shaped face with the same hazel eyes she'd always had, just framed by longer lashes now. "Amelie," she whispered, testing the name.
"It's a lovely name,"
Marvello offered. "Think of this as an unexpected vacation from yourself. Some people would consider it an adventure." Stefan, no, Amelie for now, stood up, steadier on the heels than before. "An adventure I never asked for. The best ones often come uninvited." With Marvello's guilt-ridden assistance, Amelie left the theater through a back exit, wearing a borrowed trench coat over the red dress. Her male clothes had been transformed along with her and wouldn't fit now anyway. She'd called a rideshare service, using her new ID to confirm her identity when the driver looked confused at the name on the account. Back at her apartment, Amelie stood before the full-length mirror in her bedroom, the coat discarded on the bed. The woman staring back was a stranger, and yet, unmistakably herself. The same brown hair, though longer and more lustrous. The same eyes, though they now looked larger in her more delicate face. Her body was slim, yet curved in all the typical female places, the red dress emphasizing her newly narrow waist and rounded hips. "1 week," she told her reflection. "I just need to survive 1 week." She kicked off the uncomfortable stilettos and padded barefoot to her closet. Nothing would fit properly. Her male clothes would hang off her smaller frame, and she certainly didn't own any dresses or skirts. She'd need to go shopping tomorrow, a thought that filled her with dread. That night, she slept in an oversized t-shirt, tossing and turning as she adjusted to her new body. Everything felt different. The way her hair splayed across the pillow, the weight distribution as she lay on her side, the very sensitivity of her skin. Morning brought no magical reversal. Amelie stood under the shower spray, eyes closed, allowing herself to acknowledge the reality of her situation. This was happening. She was trapped in a female body for a week, and no amount of denial would change that fact. After her shower, wrapped in a towel, she placed an online order for clothing delivery. Basic necessities to get her through the week. Jeans, tops, undergarments. She'd had to guess at sizes. And a few dresses since they seemed the easiest option for her transformed body. She paid extra for same-day delivery. While waiting, she called her office and explained she'd caught a severe flu and wouldn't be in for the week. Her new voice helped sell the illness excuse, sounding nothing like her normal self. The clothing arrived by early afternoon. Among the items, a simple floral sundress caught her eye. On impulse, she slipped it on. The fabric was light and comfortable, falling just below her knees. She turned before the mirror, surprised by how natural it felt, how the dress moved with her. On a whim, she added the white strappy sandals she'd ordered, securing the delicate buckles around her ankles. The click of the sandals against her hardwood floor created a rhythm as she walked, a sound so different from the heavy tread of her usual boots. She found herself taking small steps, then twirling experimentally, watching the dress flare out slightly around her legs. "This is bizarre," she murmured, but couldn't deny a curious fascination with her reflection. Growing hungry and restless after being confined to her apartment all day, Amelie decided to venture out. Nothing dramatic, just a trip to the cafe down the street, a test run of her temporary identity. Outside, the late afternoon sun warmed her bare shoulders. She felt exposed, vulnerable in ways she never had before. A car drove past, and the driver's eyes lingered on her for a moment too long. She crossed her arms instinctively, then forced herself to relax. This was normal for women, she realized, this constant awareness of being observed. At the cafe, she ordered a coffee with hands that still felt foreign to her. The barista smiled warmly. "That's a lovely dress. Perfect for this weather." "Thank you," Amelie replied, surprised by the casual compliment from a stranger. "Name for the order?" She hesitated only briefly. Amelie. Finding a corner table, she observed the other patrons while waiting for her coffee. No one gave her a second glance. To everyone here, she was simply another woman enjoying a quiet afternoon alone. The realization brought an unexpected sense of freedom. "Amelie?" The barista called, holding up her drink. She stood, smoothing her dress, and walked to the counter. The sandals clicked pleasantly against the floor. "Thank you," she said, taking the warm cup. "Have a nice day, Amelie." Such a simple interaction, yet it felt significant. She'd passed her first test, existing in public as someone else, as Amelie. The next few days followed a similar pattern. Amelie grew increasingly comfortable in her temporary body. She experimented with the clothes she'd ordered, discovering preferences she never knew she had. The floral sundress remained a favorite, along with a blue wrap dress that complemented her brown hair. She found herself looking forward to the swish of fabric around her legs, the delicate click of her sandals. On the fourth day, she received a text from Marvello checking on her adjustment. She surprised herself by replying that she was doing fine, even including a smiley face emoji, something Stefan would never have done. That evening, her neighbor Diane from across the hall knocked on her door. Amelie froze. Diane knew Stefan. They weren't close friends, but they chatted occasionally in the elevator or hallway. Taking a deep breath, Amelie opened the door. "Hello?" Diane looked momentarily confused. "Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking for Stefan. Does he have a guest staying over while he's away?" The perfect cover story had just been handed to her. "Yes, I'm Amelie, Stefan's cousin. I'm apartment sitting while he's out of town on business." "That's so nice of you. I'm Diane from across the hall. I was just going to invite him to a gallery opening tomorrow night. My friend's exhibiting her work, but she had to give me 2 tickets. Would you like to come instead? It might be nice to see some of the city while you're here." Amelie hesitated. Should she risk a more extended social interaction? On the other hand, she was growing tired of being confined to her apartment and short solo excursions. "That sounds lovely, actually. Thank you." Diane smiled. "Great. It's business casual. I'll knock on your door around 7. After Diane left, Amelie realized she had nothing appropriate to wear for a gallery opening. Another shopping trip was required, this time in person. The thought didn't fill her with the same dread as before. The mall was busy with afternoon shoppers. Amelie navigated the crowds with growing confidence, no longer wobbling in her sandals or feeling self-conscious about her appearance. She browsed several stores before finding a boutique with clothes that appealed to her new tastes. "Can I help you find anything?" A shop assistant approached. "I need something for a gallery opening. Business casual, but with some flair." The assistant's eyes lit up at the challenge. "I have several options that would look amazing with your coloring. The rich brown of your hair gives us a lot to work with." An hour later, Amelie left with a cream-colored blouse with subtle embroidery and a burgundy pencil skirt that the assistant had assured her hugged her curves perfectly. She'd also been talked into a pair of low heels in a matching burgundy, more comfortable than the stilettos from the magic show, but still elegant. That night, she practiced walking in the new heels, catching glimpses of herself in the mirror. Each time, recognition came a little easier. The woman in the reflection was becoming less of a stranger. The gallery opening with Diane proved unexpectedly enjoyable. Dressed in her new outfit, Amelie received several compliments throughout the evening. She found herself engaged in conversations about art, politics, and literature, speaking more freely than she ever had as Stefan, who'd always been reserved in social settings. "You're so easy to talk to," Diane commented as they examined a particularly striking photograph. "Not that your cousin isn't nice, but he's always seemed a bit closed off." Amelie smiled, recognizing the truth in the observation. "Stefan has his guard up sometimes. I suppose I'm more naturally outgoing." "Well, I'm glad you're staying at his place. We should get coffee before you go." A twinge of guilt flickered through Amelie at the deception, but she pushed it aside. "I'd like that." The 6th day, her second to last day as a woman, according to Marvello, Amelie woke with a peculiar sense of dread, not about being female, but about changing back. The realization startled her. She spent the day in her favorite floral sundress, moving around her apartment with a grace that now felt natural. The dress swirled around her legs as she cleaned, cooked, and reorganized her closet. The clicking of her white sandals had become a comforting soundtrack to her movements. That evening, she called Marvello. "I've been thinking," she said when he answered, "about changing back."
"The effect should wear off by tomorrow evening," he assured her. "You'll be back to normal."
"What if I don't want to be?" A weighted silence filled the line before Marvello spoke again.
"You mean, I'm more comfortable as Amelie than I ever was as Stefan. More authentic somehow. Is there any way the transformation could be permanent?"
Marvello cleared his throat.
"The spell was designed to be temporary. Making it permanent would require a different kind of magic entirely." He paused. "Are you certain about this? It's only been a week."
"It's been the most authentic week of my life," Amelie replied. "I know it sounds crazy, but this accident has shown me something about myself I don't think I could have discovered any other way."
"I understand more than you might think," Marvello said quietly. "Magic has a way of revealing truths we hide even from ourselves."
Another pause.
"Come to the theater tomorrow afternoon. I can't promise anything, but I'll see what can be done."
The next day, Amelie dressed with care in her blue wrap dress and white sandals. She took one last look around her apartment, Stefan's apartment, and wondered how many other aspects of her life would need to change if she remained Amelie permanently. The theater was quiet when she arrived, the marquee dark. She found the stage door unlocked and let herself in. Marvello was waiting on the stage, no longer in his performance attire, but dressed simply in slacks and a button-down shirt.
"You came,"
he said, looking up from an ancient-looking book spread open on a small table. "Yes." Amelie approached, her sandals clicking on the hardwood stage. "Have you found a way?"
"Perhaps."
He gestured to the book.
"This spell could potentially make your current form permanent, but it requires certainty. Absolute certainty. Magic built on doubt crumbles quickly."
Amelie stood straighter. "I am certain." Marvello studied her face.
"May I ask why? Most people would be desperate to return to their original form."
She considered the question carefully. "As Stefan, I always felt like I was playing a role, one that never quite fit. I restricted my expressions, my movements, my interests to what seemed appropriate. As Amelie, those restrictions vanished. I found myself speaking more freely, laughing more easily, connecting with others in ways I never could before. She smoothed her hands over her blue dress. It's not about the clothes, though I do love how they feel. It's about finally being in a body that matches how I've always felt inside. Does that make sense? Marvello nodded. More than you know. The universe has curious ways of guiding us to our true selves. He gestured to the cabinet still positioned on stage. The spell would work best performed where the original transformation occurred. Are you ready? Amelie took a deep breath. Yes. Then step inside. Once again, she found herself in darkness as the cabinet door closed. She heard Marvello speaking words in a language she didn't recognize, his voice rising and falling in rhythmic patterns. The same warm sensation she'd felt a week ago began spreading through her body, but more intense this time, more settled. When the door opened, Marvello stood waiting, a questioning look on his face. Amelie stepped out, feeling no different than before. Did it work?
The magic has taken hold,
he confirmed.
You are and will remain, Amelie.
Joy bubbled up inside her, and she found herself laughing. Thank you. You have no idea what this means to me.
I think I do.
He smiled.
The transformation was an accident, but perhaps not a mistake. Sometimes magic knows what we need before we do.
I should probably be angry about the whole thing, Amelie admitted. Being transformed without consent and all, but I can only feel grateful. The best adventures often come uninvited, she finished with a smile. Marvello closed his spellbook.
Your identification documents are now permanent. As far as the world is concerned, you've always been Amelie Voss.
What about my Stefan's records, birth certificate, school history, all of that? Magic is thorough when allowed to work completely. The universe has been rewritten, just slightly. Stefan existed, but has now moved away. Amelie has always existed, with a history that parallels his. Only you and I will know the difference. She let that sink in. A fresh start, yet with the foundation of her existing life intact. That's incredible.
Indeed. Now, I believe you have a life to live, Amelie Voss.
Walking home from the theater, Amelie felt lighter than she had in years. The blue wrap dress swished pleasantly around her legs, and her white sandals clicked a steady rhythm on the sidewalk. She saw her reflection in a storefront window, brown hair catching the late afternoon sunlight, a genuine smile on her face. Tomorrow, she would go back to work as Amelie, explaining to colleagues that she was taking over Stefan's projects while he pursued opportunities abroad. She'd have coffee with Diane as promised. She'd continue exploring this new life that had been unexpectedly gifted to her. A week ago, she'd stepped reluctantly onto a stage as Stefan and stumbled off as someone else entirely. Now she understood it hadn't been about becoming someone new, but rather about finally becoming who she was always meant to be. Reaching her apartment building, Amelie paused at the entrance, savoring the moment. The sound of her sandals on the marble floor of the lobby, the swish of her dress as she pressed the elevator button, the way she tucked her long brown hair behind her ear, all of it felt right in a way nothing ever had before. As the elevator doors closed, she whispered to her reflection, "Nice to finally meet you, Amelie." And for the first time in her life, she felt completely at home in her own skin. Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!